Hello everybody, I am Steve and this is Engine Post, and today I'd like to show you a quick tutorial on how to make your own macros in Affinity Photo. Let's get started. So Affinity Photo is a photo editing tool that costs about $50 from a company named Serif out of the UK, and it is truly an amazing tool. But let's just get right down to how to make macros and why they're so cool. First, we need a photo to edit with, so I'm going to go ahead here at the site pexels.com. It's free open source stock photos, not open source, but I'm going to search for dogs. Here's an insane little dog in a teacup or something, so I'm just going to zoom in on that, right click and copy it. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close this welcome screen, and we're going to hit the option Control Alt Shift N, which is new from clipboard, and then we have our crazy little dog. So first, to understand that macros are like any other macros in any other tool. Like I have light leaks here, and we could grab like hot day for example, and click that and apply it. And as you see here, it has the name of the macro on the top, hot day, and then it has this property intensity. And that's pretty cool. You can crank it way up and it generates that intense filter, or you can bring it down a little bit and it adjusts this. But if you look up here, you'll notice it's doing something. It says it's changed something to screen, and it's fiddling with opacity. So this intensity, it says 72%. Is actually an opacity to something. If I were to hit apply, you'd see that what it's actually doing is it's copied this crazy gradient of like multicolored gradient in, and it's adjusted the layer effect to screen, and then we were tweaking the opacity, which it named intensity. So I'm going to back this off again. Let's figure out how to kind of like recreate that with our own custom inputs. But what I want to do is I want to show you how to do it making a black and white macro. So I do a couple tricks whenever I create black and white images. So let's see how that goes. First thing we do is you have to understand that the library is where all your macros live. Like I have one called black and white here. I'm going to delete that because we're going to recreate it. And you can create folders just by going up here and saying you want to create a new category. So I named it Engine Post, for example, for me. But I'm going to go over to macro. If you're in a library macro, you can right click like on hot day and say, let's edit that. And what it does is it sends all of the steps of it over to the macro panel, and you can see the different effects and things they did. So they did a flood fill, they set in an enabled effect, and they rasterized something. They changed the blend mode, like we said, from normal to screen, it looks like. And then they set the global opacity. If we click on this, I bet you anything they named that global opacity intensity, which they did. You can see the little eyeballs turned on and it's set to intensity. This, they most likely in the blend mode set it to screen, but they didn't enable the eyeball. That's why we didn't really have a choice to change it. So there it's set to screen, but no eyeball. So how do we do this? First, I'm going to clear this out, and we're going to build our own black and white. So here we go. Real quick, we hit the little record button after resetting that, right? And now I'm going to go down here, and under adjustments, I'm going to select black and white. And it loads all these intense things, right? All these colors. So we'll fiddle with a couple. It seems to be, I'm filling with a red here. That's kind of cool. In this particular image, like this is affecting the grass, and so is that affecting a different part of the grass. Notice how the water must be reflecting some of that green because it's intensifying that little baby water dish back there. But anyway, you can fiddle with these things. You can fiddle with the blend mode. I'm not going to fiddle with anything other than these colors. So remember that. For the black and white, we only want to affect the colors. So that's that. Now we maybe want to go back to the pixel layer. And by clicking that, it says select the layer 1 below the current layer, which is right. That's the next step. And now I want to go ahead and let's say we want to add some noise. So I'm going to go up here to filters. I'm going to go to noise, and I'm going to select add noise. And I'm going to crank this all the way up. I like Gaussian, I like monochromatic. I'm not going to fiddle with those. I'm just going to hit apply. Next up, I'm going to fiddle with adding a little blur. So with that same layer selected, maybe what I'll do is I'll add a vignette. So we'll go filter, colors, vignette. And here I can adjust the exposure on the outside. We can adjust its scale. We can adjust the shape, maybe widen it out a little bit. Let's change the hardness, make it nice and soft, and let's scale it way up again. There we go, and it kind of highlights the dog a bit, and then we'll apply that. So there we have all of our steps, right? So how do we turn this into an even more clever macro? That's by exposing parameters, just like we saw a minute ago. So I can go here to select adjustment parameters, and by default they just say red, green. It said what it was able to be filled with. Let's say I only wanted to turn on red and green, or red, green, and blue. So that's these right here, down to cyan. So I'll go red, green, and blue. Actually, we'll just do those three. But now I'll say this is the black and white red adjustment. I'm going to copy that and go down to green. I'm going to change the word red to green. So all I'm doing is renaming these parameters and change, this was blue, change the word red to blue. There we go. And we're only going to let people adjust those three, or let me adjust those three. Then I'll click off here and I'll go to noise. I definitely want people to be able to fiddle with the intensity, but this is noise intensity, right? So I'll rename that. I'm going to leave these checked because I want them. I'm never going to change them, but I'm going to leave them invisible, so they'll get adjusted to those values, but they won't be editable. I have to click the eyeball to make this editable. I want people to be able to edit the noise. And then down here in Vignette, I want to be able to mess with the exposure, the hardness, the scale, and shape, but I need to say Vignette with that, so I know what it's the exposure of the vignette, right? And I'm going to just copy that. And then I'll go to hardness and scale and shape. There we go. And now if I say stop recording that, we've set those parameters, tweak their names a little bit. I'm going to hit this little add to library. I'm going to select my folder and call this my black and white and hit OK. And there we go. Now we have an engine post black and white. So what I want to do now is I want to hit Control Z over here so it goes back to the way it was. There we go. We're back to the original where we pasted it in. Now if I hit black and white, we have that, but we have all those parameters we adjusted. So here's me adjusting the red. Here's me adjusting the green, making it real light on the ground. Me adjusting the blue. See if there's any up. We got like some blue in the black of his hair. We'll brighten that up a little bit. Let's bring down the noise. I don't need it to be quite that noisy. I want much darker in that vignette in the corners there. There we go. And I also want to increase the hardness of that vignette. Whoops, wrong way. Actually, it was better the way it was. Let's just scale it down a little. Bring it back up a bit more. There we go. That's what I want. And then when I hit apply, it applies that in its entirety, adding the layers that are needed to achieve that effect. Boom. You can now take that and export it if you want to. Whoops, back here, once you edit it, again, I could go back here, right click and say edit this. And then from here I could say I want to export this because I want to share this with friends somewhere. And it'll export that with all of its properties. Thanks for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to like it. That helps me. And then subscribe so that we can get more feedback for the video I'm making. You may also watch some of the other Blackmagic Fusion videos or DaVinci Resolve videos or other videos on video making and movie making and stuff like that, and hobbies. I'm also starting a new channel, so feel free to leave notes below and let me know if there's any topics that you would like to see me address. But thanks for watching. Have a good one.